Welcome everybody back to Veil of Sound. I have the pleasure of today talking to somebody that many of you will have heard, one form or another, with one of his projects or another. But I'm very sure it's one of these artists where a lot of people don't know that they heard him. So I'm very happy to have Mack Chami here on the show. So Mackenzie, thanks for joining the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
It's always interesting when people say it's excited to talk to me. Mackenzie, the first question that I always ask everybody is usually any kind of band, merch, shirt, any of your own stuff, anything from your friends that you would like to plug here right now. And while you are thinking, I want to plug one of my friends' bands, the Almighty Kendall.
I guess if I'm gonna plug any band, I'm not wearing anything. I'm just a white t-shirt right now. But definitely plug Crawl Time. I want to just do it and just get that out and just that's what I want to plug right now. It's Crawl Time, which is my bandmate's solo endeavor, Sam Torres. And it's his solo project in power electronics, and it's one of the best out, if not the best, at least in this country. I'm not going to compare us to our European counterparts, but at least in America, yeah, absolutely, period.
And he's also on the new God is War record, on your own, on Boogeyman, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, he is. Yeah, I had to have him involved. It's always a pleasure to work with him, and I want to say we've started collaborating outside of just doing Terracell unit stuff only in the last. Probably in the last like 4 or 5 years, and I have to say that the results are always, it's always interesting, and more often than not, the stuff that I collab with him, people always end up liking the most. And actually, so far from what I've managed to pick up from people here and there is that that the single that's going to be with him and I, which is going to be the next single,
the Opium Den,
everyone
to make it good to everybody.
Yeah, everyone so far likes that track the most that has heard it. So we'll see if that continues on. Probably going to be the case though. It's a good one.
I think that is also a good moment to talk about, when you collaborate with friends or other artists. How do we have to envision that? Where and how do these collaborations take place? Because unlike on the previous record, or one of the previous records, you do not have an MC performing vocals to your music. Here, it's all instrumental. So where do we hear, for example, Crawl of Time? Where do we hear Sam?
So definitely. So I guess you could say how we hear Sam on that track, in that in many ways he is most of the track. I actually, all I gave him was it's like a synth line that kind of sounds like guitars being played quickly, like off in the distance. That's the only bit that I contributed for the track, because I wanted to actually showcase his skills and his abilities. And so, he did everything from the massive beats on that track, also the synth pad sounds as well on there. I mean, I gave him very much a blank canvas to work and do his thing. And, some people, of course, would ask like, oh, what, you had your friend, basically write a track for you, but the way I which some people probably would and could say, but the way that I'm looking at it is in the sense of how back in the day when, say, Ghostface Killah was getting started you would find on some of his earlier albums, tracks where it's just Raekwon rapping or another friend of his just rapping, but it's the Ghostface album. But that's what he wanted. He's like, no, I want to put my boy on. I want to make sure that people hear him and know what's going on. So that is also why I did that, because I want to let people know what's good with him as well. And also too, at the end of the day, I owe a lot. I owe a lot to Sam, and I owe a lot to his family too. Just for all the belief and the support over the years. I mean, there are definitely times where Sam could have walked away and not wanted to work with me anymore, but he hasn't budged once. So I just want to keep, you know, he's always going to be around, I guess, whether it's up front or in the peripheral with my work, he's always up in the mix. I don't think that's ever going to change.
Would you then be offended if I said the record has a certain kind of mixtape character?
No, I wouldn't be offended by that. I mean, especially because the album is definitely it's a mix of sounds, to say the least. Most of the time when people do an electronic music album or try to do one, it's more often there's very much a similar flow to songs and the overall vibe. But I know for a fact on this one, it goes from noise to hip hop to IDM, excuse me, and and bounces around. It's not like a gradual flow. But I feel like but at the end of the day, though, I feel like it's all very cohesive. That's in many ways, that is I guess you could say I'm trying to have very much an omnipresent type of vibe with the project, and that it doesn't matter what type of music what type of electronic music is being created or what's happening. It's just another extension of it, very much closely to. Also, too, nature is a big influence on what I do, especially with survival traits like chameleons or octopuses, where they move and they touch a rock and then their skin immediately becomes the color of that. And so that's basically what I want that project to have, that omnipresent, just ever changing, always like fitting in, almost, I guess a great way to describe it, having it be like water, where it doesn't matter where you put water, it's going to adjust to the space and fill it as such. Yeah.
It's also interesting when listening to the record, and also maybe comparing to some of the older stuff that you put out over the years. It is very liquid. It's very flowy. It's also not every track, but a lot of tracks are suitable for a lot of different occasions and surroundings. And that's also something where I at least see a little of a difference to the older stuff. Is that something that you've described it as liquid, as water? Is that something that you wanted to have to make it applicable?
I think that ultimately what happened was, I started the project in 2018, and then I moved in, with my girlfriend, who's now my wife, now Nicole Sharkey, back in 2019, moved in with her. And then, of course, as you know, the world shut down. And at that point, I thought to myself, you should just try and make music, Mac. Now's the time, since all your shows and everything has been canceled and there's nothing happening. I just thought to myself, like, you should just challenge yourself to try and like make music instead of just keep on keeping with making like industrial based or noise stuff. And I'd say basically that's what happened. Definitely it started to come through. I feel when I did that mixtape on Deathbed Tapes, the Cruelest to Our Own, the first one, I want to say that was very much like my debut of like starting to like tap into electronic music. And once I started feeling comfortable with it, I just decided to just run with it. And so, I didn't know if it was going to be good, but now, honestly, it's out of everything that I've done, I consider it my best work, without a doubt. Yeah.
I'd never like to use the word best or worst. I would say it's one of the most cohesive and appealing in a way. I think it's a very, very good record, which I can see myself listening to for a lot of different times and in a lot of different settings. But of course, we have to talk about, for example, the title, Boogeyman Inc.
Yes.
Well, interestingly, I think there is more or less only one track on the record where I say, okay, that might induce nightmares. And that's the first one. The rest is, yeah, it's very, I don't want to say mellow, but it's definitely much calmer than the first one. Is that a little tongue-in-cheek from your side, or would you really like to induce nightmares with this stuff?
I mean, I'll say this much with the song titles.
Yeah.
Just right away. I think the fun part for my audience is them trying to figure out what's real and what's not.
Yeah.
Because not all those titles are just made up or, fantasized situations. Some of them are very, very, very real and definitely did happen. I think the reason for picking Boogeyman Incorporated as the album title is because I feel like throughout my musical journey, often people treat me like I'm that. Like I'm this, either I'm problematic, or I'm not cool enough, or this or that. And no, it's true. Trust, believe me.
I know what you mean.
I can't even begin to start going on about people that I have met who've been very enthusiastic to meet me, and then when I don't fit their mold of, this or that, they get all bummed out and stop talking to me. I mean, I've experienced that plenty, but I'm not gonna stop being me. But with the title, though, I feel that has been the case. Either that, or often people, I think, sometimes are afraid to come up and talk to me, which I definitely have experienced before. Across not just my own solo projects, but Terracell unit as well. I've experienced it, but I'm a pretty easygoing guy overall. I'm actually a very nice guy. I mean, you can come up and talk to me anytime, anywhere. I'm not really nervous or what's the word, fearful of any sort of interaction with people. I don't mind. But yeah, that's definitely the reasoning behind it. And I mean, like, do I want to instill fear? I don't think I want to, I so much personally want to instill fear, but if I can maybe encourage people to instill fear in their enemies, that I'm all about. And that's very much a vibe that I'm trying to give off and present on this record for sure. Is, like, you have a problem with someone, take it up and take it all the way. Don't just sit back and write an email or write a message. No. Confront the person in real life. And not only that, but do it how you need to do it. So that it's like, that you're in control of it. Whether it's catching them at an event or a gala where they're not paying attention, or they're going to go somewhere and their routine. Either way, I feel that's true though. Either way, I feel that popping out on someone sometimes gets a point across best, which I mean, I've done. I'm not gonna say like it's like a constant thing that I'm doing every day, messing with people or getting into altercations, but it had to be done once. And yeah, it was a moment of power, and we took back what they took from us. That's, I guess I could say.
Yeah, and in a way, I can see what you mean. Very often, I think in our more or less civilized world, we tend to avoid altercations, and at the same time, we forget that if we do, the tensions are only gonna go up and get higher, and nothing's gonna get solved in a way. Sometimes that tornado that an altercation can be is necessary to clean the air. I know what you mean. Yeah. My neighbor next door with his stupid ass bitch dog also knows.
There we go.
Because I have to defend my own dog, you know. So,
Okay, no, that's not cool. Yeah, if it's coming down to
yeah, because he's got like an Irish setter who tries to bite and beat up my dog all the time. So, but getting back, the way that you describe it, it sounds as a very interesting way of empowering people. Do I see that right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, it's, I guess you could say it's like it's empowerment, but without the typical or usual routes that most people would take. This is definitely leaning very much so on a path less traveled. That's what I would say. Especially because, you know, I feel like in today's society where people have very like bizarre standards for confrontation, I think, you know, a lot of people think that that if you do everything right and you say the right thing, that it's going to play out like the movies and it's going to be some like big noble event. And in reality, it's just not. It's just not. Like the speeches are for movies. Life is not with the speech crap whatsoever. I've experienced, and more often than not, if something is going to happen, it's like in nature. It happens. It's just immediate. Boom, happens, and then you have the fallout from it. But my son's not getting too loud.
When I looked up a little bit on your biography, I saw that you're also part Lebanese, if I remember correctly.
Yes, I'm half Lebanese.
Does that stand that you have also have to do with your own position within American society, that you are one of these outsiders?
Oh yeah, of course. Oh yeah, of course. I mean, my experience with that and growing up in America has been very strange. Because I have people who often they like to downplay my ethnicity. I've had people tell me that I'm not Arab enough. I don't look it, this or that. However, though, if you were to put
the music you make is not Arab enough.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, for sure. For sure. That too, you know, it's just been a nonstop, all-encompassing war that I've come to accept that I'm just going to be facing till the end of my days. Especially when you're a Christian Arab, that just puts everyone overboard. That just makes everyone
like,
they lose their minds. And it's amazing to me because all these people that act like this are also people who like pride themselves on history, and everyone like tends to forget that like before that I want to say it was maybe 600 years between Islam arriving and Christianity being founded. So it's like, it's like, you know, my people were the first to be involved in doing that. And, you know, and now though, sadly, because of history and the victors and the people who were able to have the biggest say at the end of the day have been able to take this religion, that was a Middle Eastern religion, and make it seem like Nazareth was in the middle of America or Western Europe. It's like the most bizarre thing to me, truly, but people truly do treat it like that. And I mean, I have been, and what's wild too is that people have accused me before of having like Christian nationalist tendencies. And it's like I just sit there and I'm reading this, or someone's telling me this, and I'm just like, honestly, at this point, as a Maronite, that's the religious sect that I come from. As a Maronite, I actually have more in common in this point with the Muslim individuals than I do, say, anyone else of the Christian faith in the West. I mean, you know, people will say, "Oh, well, you look white," and it's like, yeah, I know, I'm so white that my father spoke 3 languages at one point, because that's what white Americans do. They speak 3 languages.
Yeah, all of them fluently.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know all of them. That's what they all do. or hearing instances being like, oh yeah, like you grew up American. And I'm like, grew up American sitting at a table listening to 3 languages go back and forth. Like, no, not really. No, I know
it's not the average American.
No, not at all. No. So
it's very interesting what you're describing, because I've had similar conversations with Eugene Robinson, who just departed from Oxbow, because him being a Black Jew, just like Sammy Davis Jr., for example.
Oh yeah,
not same problem, similar problem. Yes. So let me ask it this way. I'm pretty sure you also like dumbfounding people with your heritage, your religious roots, the music you make. Is that something that you enjoy? Like people looking at you and like,
I just feel like the word, I don't know if it's so much of an enjoyment, but I think that's just like, I guess from an approach, that's just all I'm trying to do is try and just have someone's attention. And not only that, but have it in a way where it almost in many ways forces them to look at it. And then in that moment, decide whether they love it or they hate it. Because that's all I want. I don't care to ever hear that someone thought like what I've done is just okay. That to me is the sentence of death sentences. I don't want that. I'd rather have someone say that it was the worst thing that they've ever heard in their life or the most amazing thing. And so I feel like that's when I'm creating ideas or sounds, that I think is kind of in the back of my mind. And I mean, that also goes to add in why I do the song titles, the art choices, all of that. All of that comes into play because I'm just trying to in many ways force someone's attention. Like I said, even if it's just for 5 seconds and they say they hate it, mission accomplished. Great. Yeah. Great. Because if they hate it, chances are they're going to go tell their friend how much they hated it. And then
the friend will look it up.
Yes, exactly. Or, or that friend will bring it up to someone else, and then boom, that other person now is looking it up, and all of a sudden they're, oh, I love this. So yeah, as long as they're talking about it, that's one of many goals. Yeah.
So then, quick question, short answer. You would probably be most offended if anybody spoke about mediocrity when talking about your music, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Which is totally fine.
Oh yeah.
But
absolutely.
But then let's talk about the music. When listening to the music on Boogeyman Incorporated, we've already said it's a little different from the other stuff that you've done, also with the other projects, Terracell Unit and so on. How must we envision the songwriting, let's rather say track, right? The track writing process for the new record? Or in general, how do you write the stuff?
So when it comes to writing, so first off, I use my format, or what I like to use is a Eurorack. That's pretty much all I use. And not only that, but I don't have a large setup. You'll hear stories or see pictures of guys with, loads and loads and loads of Eurorack. I don't have that. I've come growing up into it in a way that which I didn't have a lot of money to constantly be throwing at it. So I had to make every little piece count. And so I have a very, very concise little 7U setup that I use. And within that setup, I like to, I guess, employ what they call there's a couple of schools of thought on synthesis. But the one that I like to use for God is War specifically is random. And so as a result, I have a module that outputs, random bits of modulation. And I have that basically controlling just about everything. And so as a result, when I go and write a song, all I'm doing is finding a beat that I like first. and then pretty much letting the Eurorack system in the random modulation itself just carry the song. And so that is what does all the weird little breaks and the glitching and all that stuff. That it all stems from that. And so as a result, when I'm recording, ultimately, each time I record, say like I have something set up and it's, one track ready to go. Each time I push, play to make it, engage or whatever, it's going to be a different song every single time. And then not only that too, but I actually like to then take that same idea and then carry that over into the live arena as well. So if you see me perform these songs, I use that same random source of modulation, and I use that then to further remix and break up stuff when I play it live. So you're not just going to hear the exact same thing. You're actually going to hear a different version of it. And not only that, but like I said, it's random. So every single night that I play, it's a different song every single time with similar little bits here and there. But yeah, overall different execution. So that's basically what how I approach it right now. It's mainly through the gear, and then me just sitting down, listening to everything, being like, okay, does this sample sound right? Does this kick sound right, etc.
Then to come to that live performance, when you performance your stuff live, you said it's always different, but how would that work if you, for example, work with an MC? Would you then have to create a pattern as close or as similar as possible to the one that he originally worked on?
Yeah, correct. When and if there's ever an MC in the picture, yeah, of course, I would have to be able to reel that in and have it be a bit more structured right now. But as it stands, though, I live for glitchy IDM type. I do. Right now, I totally live for it, and that's all I'm trying to really make right now. It's like all I'm trying to really make. Actually, it was in 2019 when I saw Richard Devine and Anthony Baldino and Surachai, and then that at a show here in the LA area, and that's when I was like, that's what I want to make, but I want to do it my way. That's what I want to make.
So then let me guess, you would rather play a bigger club than a huge festival, right?
I do both. I'll go anywhere. Anywhere, anytime, any place. Just like like I was talking about, like how octopuses and chameleons, they blend in and
that's true.
Dominate. Yeah, that's once again just continuing with that. Yeah, anywhere. I would very much love to do a massive outdoor festival, and I would love to do a super big club. Like that'd be
Coachella.
Yeah. Oh, hell yeah. That'd be so dope. That'd be so much fun. Yeah. I would totally play Coachella. Absolutely. Would not raise my nose at it. Nothing. Especially doing what I do amongst everything else. Absolutely. Because, in that instance, and I feel like, God is War has been like this in many ways. It's like when you're the one who sticks out the most on a bill, technically, and I'm not saying this like in a negative way, like when I did that tour, say with like Full of Hell and Blood Incantation, and I was the only electronic act on it. In many ways, when you're that sole person, I just feel like you have just a greater chance of growing and getting people's attention in many ways. Because some people will be like, "Oh, well, who's this? What is this?" Oh, and then if they don't know and they don't bother to look into it, and they get to the show early and they're watching you set up, and then they go, "Oh, wait, he doesn't have a drummer. Wait, he doesn't have a guitarist. Well, what is this?
What is it?
Exactly.
Is this music?"
Yes, exactly. So I feel like when you stick out like that, sometimes like it really can play to your strengths and to your own benefit.
Definitely. And of course, you always have that moment of surprise. Definitely. I can totally see that. And it's also interesting, I hadn't thought about it, but yes, of course, your music is highly danceable. Although, of course, some of the break beats make it a little bit more difficult. But yes, of course. You have spoken about influences. Are there any particular influences where you say, like, okay, that is somebody whose music I really like, who influenced my own work to a certain degree?
I mean, as I mentioned just a little bit ago, definitely seeing Richard Devine, Anthony Baldino, and Surachai. Forgive me if I'm saying that last guy's name wrong, but after seeing that
I couldn't
live,
say it any better.
okay, good. Okay, good. But definitely that show had a, like I said, had a really massive, left a big impression on me and really inspired me to just, you know, that's what was sitting in the back of my mind when the world shut down. And I thought, okay, well, now give this a go. Because up until then, I wasn't really listening to my range of like electronic music that I listened to was very small. I mean, like, I want to say I only really, up until that point, only listened to like Scorn regularly. Everyone else, not really so much.
You mean Mick Harris Scorn?
Yeah, correct. Okay. Yeah. Which also too, I would say in the early days of my project was a massive influence for sure. Now, not so much, especially as I've been moving into faster types of, you know, I guess music, whatever with it, or however making it faster in general. And then in terms of anyone else, it's tough to say because I don't, like I said, I don't really listen to a lot of electronic music. So my influences are,
well, outside of electronic music.
Outside.
Is there? Yeah.
Is there?
Because I had one project in mind where I said, like, okay, that might be an influence to Mr. Chami. And
maybe
Godflesh.
Oh yeah. I mean, I like Godflesh. I mean, I've definitely I've been fortunate enough to go and see him. I dig it. I don't know. I'll be honest, I feel like I was a bigger fan when I was a lot younger. Of course, now being a lot older, I feel like I used to like a whole bunch of metal, and now I'm at a point where I almost only listen really to like brutal death metal, and not like anything cool. I'll say that much. Like the stuff that's on that one label, New Standard Elite. Like I like the stuff that's on there, like that new Submerged album. If anything, then the new Broadcast album I've been listening to heavy, but I don't know exactly how that translates over. I mean, I guess you could say like some parts of brutal death metal, like some drum patterns and some drum fills, like sure, do I try and like create crazy glitched out stuff like that? Yeah. Does it happen often? No, not really. It's like with my Eurorack capabilities and what I have set up, I lean heavily into the modulation and in terms of making it happen. So it's like me just sitting more often than not, sitting around waiting, you know, twiddling a knob here and there, waiting to see what comes next.
It's interesting that you mentioned Scorn and Mick Harris, because believe it or not, when I listened to the opening track on the new record, the first thing I thought was like, is that You Suffer? Because the first seconds, it's like, it's the same kind of breaking down of everything. And I was like, okay, that's, at that moment, the record already had me, because if a record is able to create such an association, which is completely off topic, that is already a cool moment. So that was really something where I said, okay, like, that's going to be cool. Then again, I was somewhat, as it is only 2 minutes and a bit, I was like, oh, I wished that would go on for a little longer. But it's a really cool way to start. And as I said, then it glitches and mellows down a little bit. That's a really, really cool thing. Something that I have to ask after, of course, also having looked at your, for example, Bandcamp discography, and you have already mentioned the cover, for the new record. You had a certain cover for, let's say, collages, right? Because a lot of the pictures on former records are like collages. Apex Predator, A Bow Knees, Prison Break, Master of My Realm, or also The Faceless Man, and even The Hunt, which is like a collage in a way. Is that something that you like?
So I do like it. I want to say a lot of that earlier stuff, those are collages that I made myself. Not only that, made them by hand. No computers at all. It was all just a razor and glue and tape. I didn't make the artwork for Apex Predator. I had someone else do it. I'm trying to think. And then I know that the gentleman behind In Giving Up, he's an artist, a graph writer from the Texas area. He did the artwork for The Hunt. But overall, do I like that medium? I do. Of course, it definitely what's the word? It definitely shows that I come from the experimental scene where we're often not, collages are very, very, very prevalent.
Yeah.
However, though, at least when I was doing the collages, I wanted to do the exact opposite of so many of my peers, where my peers hearkened and lived for the 80s and it's all black and white, or or it's like two colors, for example, like a blue and white, etc. I want to do the inverse of that and just do extremely bright colors.
Yeah.
Because I just felt like no one's doing it. So I figured why not go ahead and take that seat. So I love working with collages. Can't wait to, I'm going to be moving later this year, so I'll be able to get back to making more. Haven't really been able to do much. I also too had a son, so between him and my wonderful crazy cat, just no art for now. But I'll be getting back into it soon enough, probably by the end of the year.
And when looking at a lot of the pictures, it seemed as if you have a knack for bad guys. On one of the covers, you connected Gaddafi, Hussein, and Bin Laden.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. All the bad guys. All the bad guys. The whole bad guys vibe, what that stems from is basically me growing up in America, and all I'm being told on the TV is that people from the Middle East are just bad.
Yeah.
Like that's what I'm being told. Everyone's bad. And the leaders are just the worst of the worst.
Yes.
And the people are all bad. And so that is, in many ways, that's what fostered that whole long live the bad guys. And and not only that too, but I decide, like I said, it's like since I grew up seeing that these are the bad guys, this is who you are. Well, it's like, well, then cool, these are my heroes. And so then, I go to I throw them on my covers, because growing up, I didn't see any Arab, any sort of Arabian influence. And so living in America, this is what we have. If you go and look, if you try and look up, I feel almost like in America, if you try and look up anything related to the Middle East, you're going to find the worst of the worst first through Google, and then you'll find all the real stuff later as you continue to dig through, because Arabs are no different than any other group of people that actually just want to live in peace.
Yeah, and the thing is,
do right and do the right thing, and so
yeah, and to make it clear, we're not glorifying any of these bullshitty people, but I think that a lot of people out there forget that in Christianity. And that's interesting, as you are always, or not always, but as you said, often associated with Muslim beliefs. A lot of people forget that within the Arab countries, something like medicine and knowledge was much more accessible 1,000 years ago than within Christianity here in Europe. And so that's something that a lot of people forget. And therefore, I like, for example, I really like that Apex Predator cover, because it makes a lot of people think, oh, why are there these 3 bad guys and pictures from a stock exchange? You know, like, okay, there will be a reason, but you have to think. I think that's a really
it's all tied. Yeah, because you know, behind them is money.
Yeah,
you know, behind all of them is money. Yeah, exactly. So it wouldn't not be, you know, also too, you know, I'll say this much about Saddam, you know, that guy did terrible, horrible shit.
definitely.
That guy also had a very intense job of trying to get a group of, I want to say it's like five or six different groups of people to all get along in a country, which that is difficult. It's very difficult. A good example, a really good example like that is very much in Lebanon, where you have even 6 or 7 different groups of people, and it's even smaller and it's more chaotic.
And so where you have a lot of people moving in from a country that has been invaded, you know, and I'm not talking about the war now.
Yeah, no,
for example, the Nakba in the late 20s.
And then that, of course, started also helped to launch the civil war in Lebanon, but we don't need to get into a whole history lesson on that.
Well, I'm a history teacher. I can go on for that all.
Oh, yeah? Okay, then you'll appreciate this. I actually have a degree in history, or back.
Ooh, yes, I do agree. I do like that.
I graduated with a history.
And the last thing before we come to the infamous quickfire round, because I have to ask that, you have now, and I will use a superlative to please you, I would say now you have the worst cover in all of your project's history. It's too easy. It's too... It can make you think, but it's very easy. How did that happen? I mean, like, you only have a set of brass knuckles.
Yes. Yeah. So the reasoning for I guess for me going that route. So number one, that knuckle set, that's real. That's not something that
I take it's a picture, right?
Yeah. And it's a real set. You know, and this is where I have to give a shout out and a big thank you to the creator, Billy Trident, who has definitely, he has been a big influence, honestly, on my work, and definitely is, and also another reason, big inspiration behind the album title as well. But I wanted to go that route because I guess once again, just driving home that idea that if you have a problem, you can solve it. There's many ways, there's many consequences, but you can solve it. You can solve it easy. And so that's why I wanted to just leave it at that. Also too, you know, often I've talked about in previous interviews and also in my work, talking about like revenge as being like kind of always being in the background on that stuff. And so that's also why I left it very plain and simple, because at the end of the day, you can have your revenge, but it's not going to change anything else. It's almost just like a need to do out of like a response in nature, very much that idea that every action has a positive and a negative, you know, as positive, negative reaction, you know, reacting negatively to someone, something, and doing it in a harsh manner, like there's going to be no glory. there's not going to be any glory at the end of it. It's just going to be what you did, and then that's it. And life is just going to keep on ticking. There's nothing special. There's nothing radiant about it all. And so that's what I wanted to drive home with the album artwork, is that it's like, it doesn't need to be anything deeper or deeper than what it is, because in my opinion, you're already at the darkest point.
In some
ways, if you got to
yes.
that point, you're already at the darkest point, or you just don't.
Yeah. That's true. So, first of all, thanks for all the insight into the new record and into your approach to music in general. But of course, nobody leaves the Veil of Sound interview without having to go through the infamous quickfire round at the end.
All right.
You're already laughing. You know what you're up to, right? But for everybody out there, if you're seeing us for the first time, Mack will now have to choose between two alternatives that I will give him. For example, like Coca-Cola versus Pepsi, Kamala Harris versus the idiot. And then give a short explanation. And by the way, for all those Republicans out there, I'd say it to your face. He's an idiot. Let's start off easy. You're living in LA, if I remember correctly. The Dodgers versus the Angels.
Dodgers.
I'm a Yankees fan. I'm a Yankees fan. I cannot like the Dodgers, but I know.
I know. I would rather pick the A's, but since you told me those two, I'd pick the Dodgers over the Angels for sure.
How sad are you that Las Vegas is getting all the Oakland teams?
I don't think it's sad. I just think it's it was inevitable. It was inevitable, sadly, for the Bay Area. That's what I kind of feel, is that it was inevitable. Yeah.
It's just interesting, that Las Vegas takes two teams from the same city. That's like, okay.
Yeah, I know. It's wild, but yeah, they're gonna get more support ultimately. So
yeah. And it's also a question, if it was that important for the city of Oakland, then they would have done something for the A's, and they didn't.
I just I don't think they could.
You think with a new stadium, the A's would still have gone?
I can't say. I don't. Yeah.
Yeah, but I know what you mean. When talking about electronic music, on the other side of the spectrum, one of the first acts that I listened to, and one of the first persons whose electronic music approach really, really shook my belief in the guitar, was DJ Shadow. So I'll give you the alternatives of DJ Shadow on the one hand and Uncle, his side project, on the other.
DJ Shadow.
You yourself have mentioned the Wu-Tang. So, of course, question must be 36 Chambers or Forever?
36 Chambers.
One of the people that, when it comes to experimental hip-hop with lyrics, one of the people that I always look up to is Delek. I think whatever Will does is really amazing. So I'll give you two of his albums. From Filthy Tongue of Gods and Griots, versus Abandoned Language.
I don't know if I can pick. I haven't heard either of these, sadly. So I don't know. I know. I'm sorry. I can't pick. I know. I'm finally ignorant to the choices. I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. For everybody out there, my choice would be From Filthy Tongue. If anybody wants to know a little bit more about Delek, go to our archive. We have one of the interviews with Delek from a few years back. My God, it's already 2 years back. Getting old. Okay. Which festival would you rather play, Coachella or Burning Man?
Coachella. Yeah, Coachella. Yeah, easy, because they got the hookups on the for the artists. For real, they really come through on the artists, and there's like you don't have to worry about the whole place flooding. So yeah, I'd rather do that.
Full of Hell, Weeping Choir or Coagulant Bliss?
It's tough, man, but don't hate me, boys, but I'm gonna say Weeping Choir. Don't be mad at me, boys.
No. I'm very sure they ain't. I'm not sure if you know either of those two avant-garde black metal bands, but I'll ask you nevertheless. Two of these anonymous projects, and even though I could disclose a few of the people behind both, I won't. One of them is Koldostvo, from somewhere east of me, and the other is Sleepwalker. Don't make me say that Chinese name. No, from a little east of you.
Yeah. Okay.
Which one would you choose?
I don't know if I once again, I don't know either of them, so I can't.
Oh, you're getting some inspirations here to listen to. I have two more, and I'm very sure you can give me an answer on both of them. Godflesh, Street Cleaner or Pure?
Street Cleaner.
Was that was their kind of dub something that you enjoyed? Because in your music, I also hear a little bit of dub in a way. There are some tracks on the new record where I said that, where I would say that.
Honestly, I'm pretty ignorant to the dub genre in general. I mean, I didn't even know I was actually playing stuff that fell into that until my friend AJ, who does the project OAA, he was telling me, he's like, yeah, Mac, you actually you play stuff that's like falls into the dub category. And so I'm still learning about it, but in terms of like the genre history and the big artists, like I couldn't tell you or name them.
I can see that, because that's also something that I always emphasize, and I want to emphasize it once more. Artists don't make genres. Stupid people like me make genres.
Fair enough.
And last one. And the reason for that is the third title on your new record. And I will give you the title's name first, or the track's name, with a snap of a finger, like as if you were never fucking there. Being a Marvel freak, of course, that reminded me of Thanos immediately. And I hope that you know who I'm talking about. So, is Thanos for you a good guy or a bad guy?
Oh, I mean, he's a bad guy. He's classic Marvel bad guy. I don't know. I'm not a big Marvel guy, but you can definitely count on me liking every single bad guy in every single Marvel movie. Straight up, yeah, yeah. Word up. Oh, they're a bad guy. Great. Yes, I want them. More time on camera, more lines, more action. Yes, everything. Yeah, he's a bad guy for sure.
Yeah, you say that so easily. I had a long discussions with students of mine in a seminar on Marvel. And we came to the conclusion that he is philosophically seen a very interesting bad guy, because his idea might not be wrong. It's just not applicable the way he does it. I
mean, and to play off that same idea, someone who I think falls in that same category is what's his name? From No Country for No Old Man, Anton Chigurh. That character. I don't even
know the name for that. Yes.
But yeah, but Javier Bardem. Yeah, Bardem's character. Yeah, he's in my opinion, that's that same category where people say that, oh, he's a bad guy. Yeah. But it's like, is he really a bad guy? Because he actually has his own life philosophy that he's following to a T. So is that necessarily it's that necessarily a bad thing? Of course, people would be like, well, killing's bad, but it's like, well, also then this guy has the approach of, that, morality is an invention. So since he's taken that out of the equation, it's like, hurting someone, by his definition, doesn't really make him a bad guy. It just makes him someone who's following a code or his own life, life rules and whatnot and regulations. And that's it. So, yeah.
It's, there we're already, once again, deep in conversation. And there could be lots more to that. So, Mac, thanks for your time. It was really a pleasure for us. And now, everybody, you should listen to the God is War album, and you should give it some thought. And
Yes.
maybe after listening to it, oh, little Mac.
Yep. Yep.
And after listening to it, maybe give us your thought and write it down below this little video and say, well, we can understand, we understand not. We're happy about anything you tell us. And now Daddy has to spend some well-deserved big boy and little boy time.
Yep. Hangout time. Oh, yeah. Yep. Yep. Say hi to Thorsten.
So enjoy the rest of your day, my friend.
Thank you, Habibi. Yeah, thank you so much. Was that, was an absolute pleasure. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.